If you are a leader who enjoys creating systems and processes in order to accomplish goals, you may be an ecosystem architect. In this series, we look at leadership superpowers because when you know your superpower and you can leverage it, you can become a more effective leader. And so today we are looking at the ecosystem architect, which if you think of one word for this person, it's systems. This person, what they do is they translate the big picture. They create the pathway to get to that future, and they create the system and the process in order to make that happen. So it is like a roadmap, like a strategy, but it's a little level deeper, where you're actually figuring out what's the actionable stuff that we need to do in order to make this happen. So they align the systems to the goals. They see what the big picture goals are. In order to get there, here's the things that we need to do and the details that we need to pay attention to. So they're in a way a translator. They take that vision, they translate it to actionable plans. And they look at all the resources that are available because they understand there's people that will make this happen. We need to shore up these processes. We need to make sure that there's clear communication and so forth. So they are driven by a bias for action. Ecosystem architects are not people who just live in the clouds. It just drives them crazy when everyone's just sitting there in Wonderland. And instead, they like to think, how do I make this practical? So I happen to be an ecosystem architect, so I so resonate with this because what ecosystem architects love to do, develop efficient systems. That's just so fun. The idea of designing workflows that make things efficient and make them consistent, and taking something that didn't exist before with total chaos and then seeing it become all orderly. How fun is that? There's also strategic resource allocation. So they think about all the different resources that are needed. How can we actually use these in a way that is really maximized and provides the least amount of drain? Operational challenges are like puzzles. They're puzzles to solve. What is causing this inefficiency? What is a solution that we could implement that makes sure that we don't have to deal with this again? And they can translate these high, lofty, abstract ideas into concrete plans. Ecosystem architects really are architects because they draw and they structure and they organize and they think about how to make this a reality. Ecosystem architects are really important on teams because they bring a lot of order to what is happening. They actually reduce a lot of stress because if people are not organized and there's no systems in place, everybody's reinventing the wheel or things get forgotten, things get dropped. Ecosystem architects enjoy helping eliminate all of that excess activity and drain on resources in order to create great efficiency. Now, every superpower has gaps, and the ecosystem architect has a few gaps. So because they tend to be a little bit more task-oriented, they might lose focus on team dynamics or important things like culture building or collaboration. They might actually miss the bigger picture view of things that are going on externally because they are focused on making sure that things get done. And sometimes they might forget the bigger picture in a way. They do see the bigger picture, but because they are much more practically oriented, they might forget that it's important to do things like alignment and making sure that the broader vision is understood. And sometimes ecosystem architects can be a little bit limited in flexibility in their approach because they've done a lot of things before. They have a lot of experience and they've seen what works. And so trying new ways of doing things may not necessarily be their strong point. And they might underestimate the need for employee feedback. A lot of times because to them, it's just so obvious and so clear what needs to be done. And so if people are coming in, inserting their opinion all the time, well, that's just not efficient. And so that might get overlooked as well. So every superpower does way better when you're partnered with somebody. So if you are an ecosystem architect, the type of leader that would be ideal for you to partner with is a culture crafter. And it is because ecosystem architects tend to be more task-focused. They're thinking about the practical aspects of the work and not necessarily addressing the softer aspects of leadership, such as building culture and making sure that your team is thriving and doing well and has a great environment to work on, which is what culture crafters excel in. So if you'd like to find out what kind of leader you are, head on over to terraformleader.com and take the Discover Your Leadership Superpower quiz. You'll instantly find out what kind of leader you are, and that way you can understand your strengths and superpowers and leverage them in order to become a more effective leader.